So, what the F is going on here? I don't fully trust what I am thinking. You heard that. What is Russia doing right now in Venezuela? What is Russia doing in Venezuela escorting one of the oil tankers Donald Trump was trying to intercept? When I say what the F is going on, my question is this an epic RUT-ROH, or is this some kind of staged pretend show of force? I don't know, but I am not loving it. So this epic RUT-ROH, which is what I think it is for Donald Trump, I think Vladimir Putin is slapping Donald's wrist. I don't think Putin loved when Stephen Miller went on television boasting his ass off, acting as if nobody would ever stop Donald Trump's advancement, US advancement across the globe. Taking this, taking that, taking whatever they want. That's one option. One option is Putin's like, time out, buddy. I've got those flippin' Epstein files. Back off, bitch. Right? That's one option. The other option is it's nothing of the kind. It's just a little theater because maybe some people think Donald gets Venezuela or Donald gets Greenland and Putin gets to keep Ukraine. I don't know. I'm going with this is an epic RUT-ROH, or what I'd rather call an epic cock-up. I don't think Donald Trump thinks his way out of a paper bag. So why am I talking about this? It's because of this Wall Street Journal story. Headline from last night is Russia sends submarine to escort tanker the U.S. tried to seize off Venezuela. My God, that's a pretty complex headline. So let's look at the picture. It's pretty early in the morning. Let me get some coffee here. Okie doke. There is a tanker. Apparently, this tanker is formerly known as the Bella One. Formerly known as the Bella One. Friends, formerly known as the Bella One, what do they call her now? The Donald? What the fuck? Anyhow, just to be clear, that is what the tanker was called. Now, this is the tanker that has oil and has been trying to get around the U.S. blockade. Why? Because Venezuela is trying to sell its oil, right? And they sell their oil to China, I think, and Russia. Well, look, Russia doesn't like what we're doing, apparently, RUT-ROH, and they sent in a sub-fucking marine into the Caribbean to escort it. Subhead from the Wall Street Journal from last night, move raises the stakes over the Trump administration's attempt to seize the Bella. Okay, so there's a little bit more to this story than that, because the timing here is really important. This was reported out by the Wall Street Journal last night around 7-ish p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, they were working on it before that 1 second that they pressed post, right, and put it up on the Wall Street Journal's page, and now obviously in their print edition. This came out yesterday. But what you need to know is about an hour before that, look what Donald Trump was posting on his Truth Social page. I should say not quite an hour before, maybe a half hour. Here's Donald Trump. I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities, whatever the fuck that means, in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price And that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What? Listen, folks. So much to say about this, right? We've talked this week on Monday about the violation of the UN Charter and that no one was going to stop him, right? This relates to the going into a sovereign nation and using military force to remove their leader, right? And we know there's this Noriega precedent that the US will try to rely on, but the UN never thought that was legit. So we do believe what he did is a clear violation of the UN Charter. Separately, there are questions whether under US law, this was an act of war for which he needed Congress's approval, or whether Congress, under its existing authorities, have allowed this, or even if they haven't, they're going to lay down, roll over, and play dead. But now we have something new here. Donald Trump, I'm going to break this into two things. The most important new thing here is he thinks he's taking this money into the U.S. Treasury, because he's not going to put it in his own private account, even though I know what you're saying. How the hell do I know? Yeah, he'll skim something. But this money, when the sale happens, when the United States sells this on the open market, that money will go into the U.S. Treasury. That blood money, right? Blood for oil money. Donald thinks it's his own slush fund. That ain't how the spending powers in the U.S. Constitution work. Once again, what will Congress do? Is it time to wake the fuck up, people, and demand impeachment and conviction and removal? Impeachment in the House, conviction in the Senate, and removal. And the deal is, they need to have the numbers, right? We'll talk about that in a moment. So we cannot count on the Republican support for an impeachment. We cannot count on for the articles of impeachment to be voted on and approved in the House. We don't have Republican support. Over in the Senate, I don't think there's 2/3. I don't think you've got enough Republicans at all to remove and convict him. They don't have the guts. They just don't. And we've known that. So we need to get out the fucking vote. And hopefully, before that, get out this guy, get him out of office if we put enough pressure. Okay, so this is what he thinks he's doing. I would like to hear more from Congress about him thinking, like I said, that he is going to spend this money to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. He doesn't get to spend money. Now, the thing is, I'm being a little dramatic because let's face facts. On the budget that was passed, so there's two different things that passed, right? There was the budget that passed, which is an aspirational document for how the Trump administration would be spending its money this year. That passed. Separately, there's appropriations. And as you know, the various committees in charge of the different parts of the government are supposed to pass individual appropriation bills saying, yeah, we're cool with this budget concept over 10 years. And for this coming year, this will be spent on this will be spent on that. You might remember the appropriation bills never passed last year. Instead, what happened is we got a continuing resolution. Do you remember that we had that showdown and the government shut down, and yet we caved with nothing? We didn't have an exit plan. The Democrats, I say we, it's not me, it's the people representing the people I voted for. And they walked away even without getting the healthcare subsidies. Remember that? Well, guess what? Guess what? Today is January 7th. On January 30th, that continuing resolution ends. The government will not be funded after that. Do we have a plan, people? And do the Democrats have a plan? Because without 60 votes in the Senate, Donald Trump's government doesn't get to get the funding that they wanted, the ICE funding that he wanted, right? Now, we need to shut down ICE. There's a lot that shouldn't be happening. So let's play this out. Imagine if the Democrats got a spine. The reality is Donald Trump will never, ever bend. I don't know how long it would take, but we could wait and wait and wait and watch his government and his efforts slide, right? I don't think he has the capacity to fully override. I don't mean as a legal matter, but even if he's taking in this money from Venezuelan oil, right? I don't think if the IRS gets shut down and all these other agencies get shut down and put on, and some of them only on sort of light heat, light simmer, and aren't firing at full, aren't having their engines firing. I don't think he's going to do well. The problem is, though, if the Democrats don't figure out the messaging and they don't have everyone on board, it could hurt us more. Bottom line, though, we need to shut this fucking place down. We cannot, I don't care if it's 1 day or 1 week or 1 month or several months. I don't think we should be funding Donald Trump, who is acting like Hitler, invading whatever country he wants and taking their shit. And just to be clear, what happened in that message he's put up last night? We're taking the oil. Where the fuck is his conversation about all the people dying from drug overdoses? Well, we always knew Venezuela wasn't producing fentanyl and that people weren't dying from their cocaine overdoses. And a lot of these drugs weren't even going to the US. He's not even talking about the cocaine. He's not talking about the human rights abuses, which are horrific, and the torture prisons in Venezuela. He doesn't mind that. He would like that in the US. He's all about domination. He wants to break shit, steal stuff, rape women, dominate men, and be a fucking king. That's what he wants. And he's getting every goddamn thing on his wish list. Now, before I continue, remember when I said, and no one listens to me, because why? Who am I? Remember when I said what the Democrats should have done the minute he was elected, that they should have created a whiteboard and put on his top promises and gone back to them again and again and again. I literally have that same whiteboard. I have not erased it. It's messy. It's getting kind of yucky looking. But Donald Trump said his number one priority was grocery. Well, our prices are still high. That's because that's how math works. Even if the rate of inflation were slowing, the actual price level ain't gonna go down. And that was something that Biden's people weren't facing. You've got to tell people, and people don't always want to hear. Once prices go up to a certain level and there's normal steady inflation, they're not going to go down to a different level. Wages have to keep up with that. And that's why inflation often kills presidencies. But groceries, he didn't deal with that. Anything that was be good for us, he didn't. Immigrants, he would get rid of them. Yeah, they are going aggressively after people who are here, undocumented immigrants who actually are documented and going through the system. They are brutally rounding up, illegally sending abroad, and terrorizing many people so they're deported or they self-deport. So he promised things, and that is actually hurting the economy. Hurting things like construction will hurt things like the price of groceries. Okay, what else did he promise? To cut taxes on billionaires and corporations. He hasn't done that. What else did he promise? that our personal taxes would go down. I don't know. We shall see. But is it worth it? Right? So the only thing, groceries are still expensive. He's terrorizing immigrants. Oh, he also said he'd go after his enemies. He's doing that. How about ending wars? He's claiming he ended 8 wars. The man is talking about using US military force to take land and resources he wants. That's not ending wars. And then, of course, he claimed ISIS was 100% gone, and that wasn't true. I'd added that later. But look, these were the promises he made. He ain't sticking to them. Now, let's talk about taking this oil. Over on CNN, I love that Neera Tannen, who's with the Center for American Progress now, formerly, she was in the Biden White House. I think she said this the best way one possibly could. Let's play it. Sorry, guys. I've got to pull this playlist. Okay.
Just a few hours ago, Donald Trump said he's taking personal control over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. Okay. Now, I just think the truth of this reality is, Marco Rubio goes out and talks about democracy for a few hours and on Sunday morning. And then by evening time, Donald Trump is basically saying this entire effort is really about control of oil. And the fact that American military forces and actually American military forces have been harmed in order to get oil under the control of Donald Trump. I'm sorry, that's piracy plunder.
Why are you leaving out the whole second?
Just a few hours ago, Donald.
And what did she say? I love this. That is piracy and plunder. Donald Trump is a pirate. He is a mob boss. Is it any shock for us? It's happening right in front of our eyes. And this has to be what people talk about. I mean, remember, he's shaking down. This is the list of US companies. And this is quite a while ago. This was like last month. This was for 2025. This comes from the Dispatch, and they use the New York Times, Bloomberg, Reuters, and CNBC. Here are the US companies he shook down, where the US government took direct stakes in these companies. US Steel, MP Materials, AMD, which is Arthur Daniels Midland, Intel, NVIDIA, Critical Metals, Lithium Americas, Westinghouse, Re-Element Technologies, Trilogy Metals, Vulcan Elements, and Korea Zinc. There's other things here, also more things from NVIDIA they were describing. Guys, this is what he does. He shakes folks down. And he looks, what do I want? He sees oil and minerals, and he sees what do people want? And he wants money and he wants power, not other people. He sees what are the resources people are fighting over? And he intercedes in that. He puts himself there. He becomes the grabber. Donald Trump is a grabber, a smasher, grabber, mob boss. That's what he wants to be. And if you think I am nutso, I want to share with you Representative Ogles from Tennessee and the biggest Freudian slip that you have ever seen. He was on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo, and he was talking about the U.S. being the protector. And I need you to listen carefully. One, he makes some odd claim that the U.S. has shed more blood in Greenland than Denmark has, which apparently is not backed at all by any data that I am aware of. I'm trying to find that out, as if that entitles you to take something. We died there, it's ours. But listen more carefully to that, at this whole thing. He's trying to say that we are the protector. You're not going to believe what he actually said.
The passage of military assets in that region, as you see the area, the sea becoming more more traversable, it's important that we have a stake in Greenland, that they are quite.
Oh, damn it. You're right. AMD is Advanced Micro Devices. ADM is Archel Daniels Midland, a chemical company. God damn it. Thank you for that correction. Thank you. It was a little bit of acronym or initial dyslexia. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to the Ogles. Here we go.
You know, the passage of military assets in that region, as you see the area, the sea becoming more more traversable, it's important that we have a stake in Greenland, that they are quite frankly a protectorate of the United States, and not they've been in participation or a relationship with Denmark. That needs to end. Denmark, we have spilt more blood. The United States of America has spilt more blood protecting Greenland than the Danes have. We have a greater vested interest in Greenland than, geographically speaking, than the Denmark, the Danes have. And so when you look at the Monroe Doctrine, when you look at the Western Hemisphere, we are the dominant predator, quite frankly.
We are the dominant predator, frankly? Holy shit. Protector or predator? Let me just rewind. Listen.
Than the Denmark, the Danes have. And so when you look at the Monroe Doctrine, when you look at the Western Hemisphere, we are the dominant predator, quite frankly, force in the Western Hemisphere. And that speaks to Venezuela, where I'll take odds with Senator Paul, my friend, quite frankly, is that, you had a dictator who was poisoning and killing Americans, and the President of the United States has sent a clear message. If you were complicit in killing Americans, we are going to come for you. And it was a military action. But
I got more. Really? If you're complicit in killing Americans, poisoning and killing Americans, we're going to come for you? Really, Ogles? When the fuck are they going to come for Robert Kennedy Jr., the man who is literally killing people by eliminating the vaccine schedules, by lying about the power of inoculation? If they actually care about the lives of Americans, when will the GOP, the Republican Party, come up with their healthcare plan? Because that's what they're supposed to be doing. Between when we all caved, when they caved, the Dems caved, and ended up agreeing with the continuing resolution through the end of January. How is that going? Shall we check in? Because I'm wondering if there's any, hypocrisy here. Let's listen. Are you curious? Over on Fox News, again on Maria Bartiromo's show, she has Rick Scott on to talk about, the Republican healthcare plan. Rick Scott, as you may know, is currently a U.S. Senator. Rick Scott has a pretty sketchy history of engaging in fraud. He is the former CEO of Columbia HCA, which was a hospital chain. He literally ended up pleading guilty to a massive, in fact, so it goes back to 2003. It was what the Department of Justice reported, the largest healthcare fraud case in U.S. history. And it netted $1.7 billion. And he was the CEO of that company. He is now claiming, if you can believe it, that he's trying to, as the Miami Herald, let me show you this, said, He's trying to, what we would call, rewrite history. This is Rick Scott. This is May of 2024, about 2 years ago. He tries to rewrite history on the 1.7 billion fraud controversy. Okay. He is trying to claim that it wasn't all that bad, that it was political persecution. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you really kidding me? Yes, that is the guy. His hospital chain pleaded guilty. $1.7 billion in fines. Now, of course, this involved filing false claims for reimbursement by Medicare and Medicaid. It included getting kickbacks. He was the co-founder of this company. Of course, he was forced to resign. Now, not surprisingly, as CEO, he did not face charges. This is pretty common in the white collar crime prosecution world, unfortunately. If you want to read about it, read Big Dirty Money, my book, which you can find in libraries or wherever books are sold. Anyhow, the point is that Rick Scott, still a U.S. Senator, was asked by Maria Bartiromo, not how's it going, fraudster, or anything like that, or isn't it kind of great that you get to be a U.S. Senator even though you presided over the company that engaged in the largest healthcare fraud ever? No, that's not what she asked him. She asked him what the GOP's healthcare plan is. This is the experts that they turn to, just so you know. So I think you're going to be really pleased to hear that they have a plan. Listen up.
What do you think about that? I know that the president has been urging flexibility on funding limits for Obamacare plans covering abortion as well. Senator, you say More Affordable Care Act aims to put patients over big insurance. What is the GOP's plans in terms of health care?
Well, number one, we care about people getting health care. I grew up in public housing. I know the difficulty of getting health care. I watched my mom struggle to get my brother health care because she didn't have insurance and couldn't afford to pay for it. She finally found a charity hospital 4 hours away. So the way to do this.
Oh, I love how he talks about his personal history, like cherry picks the part about how hard it was for his mother to find health care, skipping over the part about how he ripped off the government to line his own pockets and obviously kept enough of the money because they could afford to do whatever it takes to become a senator. I'll continue.
Is we got to let the patient-doctor relationship make these decisions. So if we're going to subsidize, which we should subsidize people that need health care that can't afford it, it ought to go in the form of a health savings account. Let them buy the insurance they want or direct health care. Many times you could buy it way cheaper by just going directly to a doctor or directly to a hospital, or directly to a surgery center.
Subsidize the people who can't afford it. That's all of us. This is the plan. Pay out of your own pocket. He's saying most of the time, some of the time, you can go directly to a healthcare provider and pay them. Oh, yeah, sure. When I needed that MRI because it turns out I have like several pinched nerves in my neck, I'm pretty sure I could pay. I'm pretty sure I could go right there and just lay down that money. Yes, I'm pretty sure that when someone has an emergency C-section and they need it, or their baby will die, I'm pretty sure that they can just Venmo that money to the surgeon before he cuts into you. I'm pretty sure that's how it fucking works. Did he really say that? Let's listen.
Let them buy the insurance they want or direct health care. Many times you could buy it way cheaper by just going.
Many times you could buy it way cheaper by going direct. Never. The only time it would be cheaper to go direct that I am aware of is when your insurance doesn't cover a procedure, such as a friend of mine who wants IVF and she's not in a state where it's covered or her insurance covers it. So she has flown overseas to specialists in a different country where it is less expensive, maybe around a little over half as expensive. Medical tourism. but it's still not cheap. That ain't for everybody. It's a lie. Many times direct pay is cheaper. What the fuck? Of course, though, if you're buying in, what was it, ivermectin or whatever the horse dewormer medicine is to treat your COVID, I bet that's cheaper than real treatment.
Directly to a doctor or directly to a hospital, directly to a surgery center, rather than going through the insurance product. Let them take the money we're going to give them, let them buy their own insurance. Let them buy across state lines.
That's kind of the whole point of how Obamacare works. If your employer doesn't provide your insurance coverage, then you don't have the kind of job that has it, or you're not employed, but you're not eligible for Medicare or Medicaid, you can go buy insurance. But the problem is, to get a decent plan, no one can afford the premiums. Okay. Or if the premiums are minuscule, the out-of-pocket coverage swamps everything, and you still can't afford to get treatment. That's why there are Obamacare subsidies. And no, they're not entirely going away. Only part of the subsidy is going away. This shit isn't affordable, okay? Even when there's a slight subsidy. And they're thinking, oh, well, maybe the insurance companies, and I agree, insurance companies aren't great, right? They're greedy too. And the problem there is government oversight, regulation, corporate governance, all the stuff. But if you don't have insurance companies at all in this process, then it just doesn't work, right? We pay insurance premiums over the course of our life into a pool. We hope we don't get sick. We hope we don't need to use it. And if we don't, then what we've paid in can help go for someone else when they need care. It's a form of socialism. That's how insurance works, that you are socializing the risk. We're all putting money into a pot and hoping we don't need it. Now he's saying, well, let people buy their own insurance. Well, when you have that happening, then you get cheaper insurance if you are less risk. And people who are higher risk with pre-existing conditions, hello, all of us at some point as we age will have those. Someone who has asthma, someone who has diabetes, someone who has some other pre-existing condition or genetic issue. None of them will be able to actually get insurance. It's a fucking scam.
Participate in buy the insurance they want instead of what federal government wants to tell them they have to buy, or some big insurance company wants to tell them. And we got to tell them what things cost. The providers have to tell people what things are going to cost. So the president's on the right track. I've got a bill to do this. Chairman Pfluger in the House has the companion bill.
Okay. That's their plan. And it's a plan for disease and death. So that's what we got. Now, before we go, because we got a little crazy town to talk about, right? The first thing I want to say first is I got 2 scoops of crazy town. And the first is it's going to be like kind of something you may, not want to watch because it involves the Orange Menace. Sorry, here we go. Let me remove him. It involves the Orange Menace. But I think you need to see how Looney Tunes this man is. So we've got 2 scoops of crazy town. Let us go. Okay, so just so you know, it doesn't even matter what he was talking about. He was doing this kind of lecture or talk to Republicans, and then, he ends up dancing after it. But I think what you need to see, a couple things. I'm going to pull myself out of the shot. His makeup is really coppery with none around his eyes. He is sticking his tongue out and acting like a total weirdo. And I'm going to show you, I mean, this is what he's doing, and it's kind of gross. So, you know, if you want to cover your eyes and ears for a second, it's only like, I think it's only like 3 seconds. So let me get out of the shot so I don't have to associate myself with this pig. And yeah, this is 9 seconds. Here we go.
I want to really, but she gets it, and I want to really,
Sorry if you just lost your breakfast, but something less disturbing for Crazy Town is, but equally crazy, is you know how Donald Trump once again is acting as if he's going after the bad guys in Venezuela because he cares about the people of Venezuela, and you know, he cares about the United States. Sort of says that as his cover, but he really wants to take the oil. And I think that you've heard of Maria Machado, the opposition leader in Venezuela, who ended up winning the Nobel Prize, right? And I think somehow she expected that they would put her in as the new leader of Venezuela and provide protection for a government that cared about the people, ended human rights abuse and torture and all this stuff. But the thing is, it has always been true that certain business leaders, shall we say, actually do better in countries where there's extreme oppression and where the government uses military force to protect corporate interests. I'm talking about the extractive industries like oil. There is a reason that we are often hearing about human rights abuses, for example, in places like Nigeria, right? You may know that, you know, I will just let you know that as Amnesty International has reported, there are tremendous human rights abuses and related to oil spills. Also, we hear stories about people being brutally repressed in countries where they try to resist this oil development. So I'm not making this up. I just want you to take a look at this. Oops, I thought I was going to share that with you. And give me 1 second. I'm going to share this with you real quick. So I think you can see this. This is from Amnesty International, and it says, this is from May of 2024. Nigeria says Shell must be held fully accountable for human rights harms before being allowed to sell its Niger Delta business. And we have, this is, you can also see this, and this is Nigeria. This is from 2023. Shell must clean up devastating oil spills in the Niger Delta. And we've also seen other human rights abuses. I don't need to, I'm not going to go into those details. But what the point I'm making is it makes sense that an opposition leader, someone who cares about the people apparently, might be a good person to put in place if your goals were actually cleaning up spills from the oil industry, making people whole, sharing the wealth of a country with the people. But Donald Trump obviously doesn't care about that. They are leaving in place. They're leaving in place Maduro's vice president, right? She is still there. So we have Delcy Rodriguez, right, who was number 2 to Nicolas Maduro. She is the acting president of Venezuela. She is not going to change the way in which people are treated in that country. And then we have this alternative. And she somehow thinks, Maria Machado somehow thinks that if she bows and scrapes, that Donald will recognize her. And here is the craziest thing. This is her going on Fox News, suggesting she is going to share the Nobel Prize she received with Donald. Never go to this crazy town place where you debase yourself. Now, I understand she's doing what she thinks is good for her country, but lady, read the room. Read the room. It was not actually that much of a Freudian slip when Ogle said the United States is the dominant predator in the Western Hemisphere, not protector. Let's go.
Right. Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition, and I want to.
A huge step towards a democratic transition. Oh, lady. Oh, lady. That is, that's not how Donald Trump operates. Anyhow, guys, one last thing. Oh, this is actually, let's leave this on a good note. This is not a crazy town thing. This is actually something quite better. This is a legal update. This is a FAFO, F around and find out. I think I'm so excited to share this with you before we go. Okay. Remember Lindsay Halligan? I think you do. Remember that Lindsay Halligan basically said, let me go to this. Lindsay Halligan is the person who the courts have decided. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. Lindsay Halligan, one of the personal lawyers for Donald Trump, who had very little experience, and he tried to appoint her to become the U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Virginia. And the reason that two of the cases she tried to bring, that she was the only one to sign on, the James Comey case, these retribution cases, so the Jim Comey and the Tish James cases had to be dropped because she wasn't actually the acting, she actually didn't have that role. Well, she decided, because maybe this case, they put someone else on them, but I guess they decided, because it wasn't the U.S. Supreme Court who made that decision, that she was going to continue to use that title. Well, you'll never guess what happens next. This is a court filing from yesterday. This is super exciting. And this is, let me show you. This was in the Eastern District of Virginia. It's just a random case, and against someone named Devontae Jefferson. And we have the court saying, this is an order from the judge. And let me just make it a little smaller. This matter comes before the court on its own initiative. The court has reviewed the indictment in this matter, which was returned by the grand jury on December 2nd, 2025, and observes that Ms. Halligan identified herself therein as the United States attorney for this district. Ms. Halligan did so despite a binding court order entered by senior United States District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry on November 24th, in which Judge Curry found that the appointment of Ms. Halligan as U.S. attorney violated both 28 U.S.C. 546 and the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. And then they mention that was in the Comey case. Consequently, it remains the binding precedent in this district and is not subject to being ignored. So guess what? For these reasons, the court hereby directs Ms. Halligan to file within 7 days of the issuance of this order a pleading explaining the basis for Ms. Halligan's identification of herself as the United States attorney, notwithstanding the judge's ruling. She shall also set forth the reasons why this court should not strike Ms. Halligan's identification of herself as U.S. attorney from this matter. And they go on to say, you know, Ms. Halligan, this is the best part, shall further explain why her identification does not constitute a false or misleading statement. Okie dokie. I'm loving this for her. Absolutely loving it. Okay, guys, I will see you in the morning, tomorrow morning. Hoping we have better news. Every day we get closer to the end of this regime. It won't last forever. Yes, things will get worse before they get worse, but we always have each other, and we can focus on PRISM. Our physical health, our relational health, our intellectual health, our spiritual health, and our mental health. That's what we're about, and that's how we'll get through this crazy time period.
Hello, Prism mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.